Hey everyone, happy Sunday and welcome to Call the AD, where the A stands for Arthur and the D stands for Dan. This is the live show we do every Sunday, Dan and myself, and it goes up on the Scottish Watches Live channel after the fact. So this week we're going to be talking about how does your relationship with a watch change over time? So we'll get to that in a minute, but in the meantime, how are you, Dan? What's going on?
I'm very well. How are you?
Doing well. Doing well.
Cool. Have you got any watch news? Anything this week you'd like to talk about? Because of course we missed last weekend.
We did. Yeah, we're back. So I sold the watch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So how did that experience go?
It was actually pretty painless. I've had my Autodromo Group B for about 2 years now, and I love the watch. It's really nice. I just found I wasn't wearing it as much anymore. And tried the Reddit Watch Exchange sale post, and actually had probably 4 or 5 offers within the first hour or two, and got the payment Friday, sent it yesterday. And I gotta say, it's only the second watch I've sold, but it feels a little bit like a weight lifted to sell a watch that you're not really wearing. And it kind of made me think a little bit about our topic this week too.
Yeah. Especially as well that it was a painless sale, because
Right.
It's always a worry, isn't it? Like you sell something, it goes, and then the buyer says, "Oh, it never arrived." You know, you've all kind of got that, and then it could get lost in the post or whatever. So, and it is still $700-800 worth of watch, isn't it?
Right. I mean, so I try to do everything right to protect myself and the buyer, insured, tracked shipping, all that sort of thing. Proper PayPal. Looks out for us both. So
also as well, I know with you selling, that's kind of left an open space in your collection, and now you've thought about buying. I know as well that you've had a bit of probably an itchy finger over buying, and I know that you've got your heart set on one particular thing, which the Pepsi GMT ceramic, which, as we all know, are just like unobtainium.
Right, hard to get.
But I know you've been looking at other things as well. My campaign for a Breitling 765 is going well.
You put up a poll on your Instagram story, right?
I did. 70% of people agree with me. The rest are incorrect. Yeah.
Not to bias anyone, but Dan was showing me pictures of the list of who voted no and explaining that he was coming after the ball individually.
However, I know that given the choice, you'd go for the Brigade, I think, because it's a flyback.
Like a Type 20, yeah.
Yeah, I do understand that. That is cool. I prefer the aesthetic of the Breitling, not because it's just a Breitling. I think for me, the Brigade numerals are just a little bit too big. They're quite obviously for legibility, pilot watch, but they're much the same, really, aren't they?
Yeah, why don't we pull up a picture here for just in case people aren't familiar. I think looks like Koos is advocating for the Breguet Type 21, which I also like a lot. A little bit larger, slightly different aesthetic.
Let's see.
Well, that's the Avi 765. Is that the right numbers?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. And in we found out that actually came first chronologically, right? The Type 20.
1954. I think the Type 20, or no, it might have been 1952, and the Type 20 was 1954. I could have my dates wrong, but I know that the Breitling was slightly before. Yeah, but when they released the 765, everyone was saying, no, the Brigade was first. It wasn't. The Breitling was first. However, I think they were all manufacturing a type of watch for a certain requirement and tender that had been put out by the military. I'm not sure. I
think it was the French military, French Air Force, maybe. I don't know which branch of the military it was, but it was a specification basically, right? That's why they ended up looking so similar. The Type 20 was like the spec number, I guess.
Yeah. So PC Standard Time, which is Paulie's new account.
Yeah. Hey, Paulie.
which is cool.
Everyone go follow
Um,
him. He's moved over and created a dedicated
yeah.
watch account too. Yeah.
My end, there's not much to talk about. Red Bar Global would have been this weekend. It's a shame it didn't go ahead. However, they're doing their live thing at the moment, which is quite cool. Been watching some of it.
Yeah.
Which
I
is,
sat in all day yesterday too. That was fun.
yeah, which was quite fun. I did see a friend of mine has a Pulsar, which is an RAF issue watch, and it's the actual official RAF issue for aircrew. I posted this on my story, and I just thought that was really cool. Then they have a non-chronograph as well, which is issued to the kind of normal, and that's the aircrew. So
That's really
I
cool.
thought that was quite cool, and you can actually see on the back the broad arrow and the NSN number, which is a NATO stock number. So that number, if I was to put that into my system at work, it would actually bring up the information about that.
Oh, cool.
Which I thought was quite cool.
Can you order one from that system? You're like, I need a spare part.
I've tried.
Okay.
No, I mean, and apparently you can't buy these. You can only get them issued.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. Hopefully, I'm going to get one, but
That'd be cool.
We'll have to see.
And it's probably no coincidence, but it reminds me a little bit of some of the Vertexes, which were military issue, right?
Yeah, because I've noticed the Vertex, like it's got quite a lot of protection, isn't it, around the pushers?
Right.
Sort of similar, but yeah, no, I thought it was cool. Something interesting to see.
Yeah.
Oh look, Karan's just joined. What fantastic timing! So I have a new watch today. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that! Thank you, Karan, for my Pepsi. He's just after now to go for his Pepsi.
Mine costs a little bit more than that, I'm afraid.
I think it's broken though because it's stuck on one time. 11 minutes past 7. It doesn't seem to move past there. So.
And for those who hadn't seen that, that's the Pepsi that Karan, our watch dealer friend, promised Dan. And he sent it to me in the mail, and I shipped Dan a package over the past couple weeks here, which finally showed up with the Pepsi and some other goodies, right?
Yeah, one of which is a Mustang top, something I would never actually wear, but
show them the back. Show them the back.
It's going to feel backwards. Hang on.
Oh, that's right.
There we go. Can you see that?
It says you can never have enough muscle, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I shall never wear that out in the public unless I want to get.
You just need to cut the sleeves off, and then it'll really complete the look and pop on the mullet. It's good to go.
Yes. He you know why it's 7-Eleven? Yes, I do. One other thing I wanted to mention before we moved on, something that I think some people on here would have an opinion about, and I know certainly you will. On our watch chat on WhatsApp, Sahaj had mentioned that Watches of Switzerland are doing interviews to buy Rolexes, the professional range of Rolexes. Now, if that is actually the case, that is absolutely ridiculous.
I agree. I mean, it's based upon some Rolex forum post. I think 2 people saying they were invited in for an interview to see if they were worthy of. I think even one was just looking for an Oyster Perpetual, not even necessarily a sub, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's insane. I mean, have some self-respect, right? One of the guys was like, "How do I prepare for this interview with Watches of Switzerland to see if I'm worthy of a new Rolex?" I'm like, oh my god, just like, yeah, I don't even know where to start.
It's unbelievable. Watch Companion. It was on a forum. Apparently it is true. Well,
at least multiple people reported that. I mean, it's as true as we can know from that, but it was not a joke in that context.
So, I mean, I know as a community, it's something that completely would disgust most of us, but because they are so much in demand, do you think they'll get away with it?
Quite possibly. I mean, there's enough people willing to put up with that kind of crap.
Yeah. I mean, Listy, he said, Dave said, it is ridiculous, or are they trying to intercept the flippers? Yeah,
Well,
I guess that's what they're trying to do, but
I mean,
that's kind of insulting.
I mean, that's one reason, you know, those kinds of watches often get sold to people where there's a relationship with the dealer because they know the person already, right? And they know that person's not going to flip that watch. And to me, that's actually a lot more genuine than conducting interviews like there's some sort of, you know, competitive ranking process. That's just pretty messed up, if you ask me. But
I know, and that for me would turn me off the brand completely. I mean, that's just, in my eyes, that's terrible.
yeah, I mean, it's a bit the brand, but it's also that retailer choosing to do that, if that's true, right?
Yeah. Mm.
So
yeah,
anyway.
I don't think what I've seen through different ADs is different tactics of selling Rolexes. So I kind of think it would be at a AD level, not a Rolex level.
I agree. Yeah, I would think so. I think it's their choice, right?
So Dave said he'd take an interview tomorrow for a new sub. Oh, interesting. Well, if I was the AD person, I wouldn't give it to you. Of course I would. Cool. Should we move on from the Rolex controversialness?
Right. We could probably spend an hour on that every week if we needed to, but let's talk about something more interesting.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so we thought we would discuss how your collection over time evolves, how you feel about it. Do your feelings change after a certain period of time? Do they get better? And of course, as you go along in the hobby, your tastes change. Right. So and it's interesting to see, and also people on here, if you could share as well your thoughts, that'd be fantastic. But Arthur, do you want to start?
Sure. So I was thinking about this from the perspective of how my feelings towards an individual watch even change over time. Like, I guess sort of starting before purchase, right? Just talking generally about sort of the way I tend to behave and think. First of all, I need to try it on, often multiple times, because there's no substitute for seeing a watch in the metal and on your own wrist, in my opinion. And I often want to make sure that I stay focused on that watch. I do get distracted, but if I always come back to a watch time after getting distracted by other things and the news and so on, that to me is saying, you know, this is standing the test of time in my mind even before I bought it. And that's sort of step one for me. I will say that's harder to do with like micro brand or sometimes more affordable watches, because one, I can't often try on a micro brand watch unless someone's got a red bar. And two, that's the only circumstance where I get a little bit more tempted to impulse buy. And I think those are the watches that don't stand the test of time for me in the end. I often the ones where I really made sure I wanted it are the ones that stick with me. And so anyway, so for you, what is that relationship like, I guess, before you buy?
So before I buy, I'm very much kind of love at first sight. If it doesn't click with me straight away, then I'll discount it instantly. It's not always the case. The Top Time Breitling, for example, to look at that, I think that's an amazing watch. I just love it. I love its design. I like how different it is. It just looks really cool. However, after trying it on and seeing it, it's too big for me.
The lugs are quite long. I just tried it for the first time last weekend, actually. I did notice that. And
I just because the Top Time in the past has been a lot smaller than that, but I guess, you know, current market, whatever, they make bigger watches, and Breitling are known for that, aren't they, in the last sort of 10, 15 years. I know they're starting to change. I'm very similar with you with micro brands, because they're harder to see, particularly now as well with red bar, and, you know, it's the times when you would see them.
Right.
And I don't like my Fears watch. I love it. It's a really cool watch, but I don't wear it too often, and it's not because it's a crap watch at all or it's rubbish. It's just I always tend to go for something or wear something I love the most. I always
Right.
just stay to that same thing. So yeah.
And that's where, to me, every watch has to have something unique about it, I think, to make me want to wear that over something else in my collection. This is actually one reason for me that I have not bought the Seiko SPB 143 or whatever the new 40 millimeter diver is to me that fills a similar role in my collection as my Black Bay 58. And the way I am, if those two are sitting next to each other, I will almost always go for the 58. It's just, I know this about myself over time, you know. It looks like we've got a couple people in the comments. Paul saying sub $1,000 impulse buys, especially micro brands, can be so dangerous. Fleeting loves. I've made that mistake many times. Yeah, I agree. I feel like I wouldn't call my Autodromo a mistake, but I had my fun with it, and in the end, you know, made out pretty decently. It didn't cost me much to own that watch while I did, but I've almost bought a whole lot of stuff in that kind of price range that I think wouldn't have stood the test of time. So
yeah, definitely. And I think every time I think about buying a watch, I actually think to myself, will you wear it? Will you get the use out of it? Or will you always jump back to that watch, or that watch?
right.
And it's for me, it's the same every time. I will always jump back to the same watches because they're the ones I enjoy wearing the most.
Right.
And then it leans into something else. Another point a bit later is where you get so many in your collection that you become a bit unfocused, and you have so much that there's too much, and you're wearing everything less.
Right.
So,
that's how I was starting to feel, and actually getting rid of one that I wasn't wearing much helped. Seriously, it seems ridiculous, but it was like a weight off my shoulders. You know, I can now look in the box and be like, yeah, I want to wear all of these, and that's a nice feeling.
yeah. It's funny actually you say that with the Seiko and the Black Bay, because I suppose I'm guilty of that, where I've got Speedmaster Professional and a Speedmaster. Well, I've got 4 of the things, but one's Freya's, of course, but 2 are fairly similar. So I will consider something, regardless of it being similar, if I love it enough.
That's good. I mean,
So,
it's whatever makes you happy, right? It needs to make you happy.
Yeah.
We've got a question from Watch Medicine. Says, are the oldest 2 watches you've owned the 2 keepers you have? For me, the 2 I've owned the longest have sentimental connections. So yes, they are keepers, but they're also not what I would consider sort of like the bread and butter keepers of my collection, which I would say are the Speedy and the Black Bay 58.
yeah.
They're a different set of watches. I'm referring to my wedding watch, the Frederic Constant, and my brother's old tag. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd certainly say for me, the Speedmaster Professional, with it being my very first watch, the watch that opened me up into this crazy hobby. Not only that, it happened at a time that was really exciting in my life. So to think back to that and that kind of whole time period is so fond to me. So the kind of love for that watch is a lot deeper than just the aesthetics and how it looks. It's a time in my life where I loved.
That's great. So
yeah.
So I guess, what was that like? I would say let's sort of chunk it out. Like, what was the honeymoon phase for that watch like for you? You know, how long were you after you bought it? Was it like the only thing you wore? You know, how long were you being honked at stoplights because you were looking at your watch instead of driving a car, which has happened to me?
It's a good question. I think, to be honest with you, the honeymoon period is still here for every single watch that I own. But the Speedmaster Professional in particular, more than the others, still. Particularly when I first got it as well, because spending that amount of money on your first watch was a hell of a lot of money. And I spent such a long time deciding whether I was going to buy it or not. And when I did, there is not a day I've regretted it at all. I know, you know, it's an expensive hobby. They cost a lot of money, but particularly that watch, I still love it, and I still cannot believe I've got it. And the same for every watch that I own.
That's a good place to be in, right?
So yeah,
I've actually found some of those earlier choices. Sure, my tastes have changed somewhat, but I waited longer before buying those, partly because I had to save up. I mean, it was a practical financial matter, right? But that actually helped me make so sure that I really wanted that. I guess I'm a little different with I would say there is definitely like a week or two really, really enthusiastic honeymoon phase with any watch where I wear almost only that. And for me, I usually rotate day by day. So that's a little bit different. And that's where I do get, you know, caught by Stephanie staring at my watch, not paying attention to conversations, not paying attention to if the light's gone green, driving, you know. But
yeah,
I think the ones that stand the test of time, it's almost like a relationship, right? You're getting to know the watch or the person. Things are very like exciting. I'm not going to say passionate because that sounds weird in this circumstance.
when you start getting in the closet with your watch, and Stephanie wonders where you've gone.
Anyway, but it's like, does it go from passion to love, right? Some watches I find you sort of like the enthusiasm sort of burns out and it doesn't necessarily stand the test of time. And others, it goes from this like true excitement, enthusiasm to a more sustained, long-term, like solid relationship with that watch. And I think the Speedmaster and the Black Bay 58 have done that for me. I think that is what is happening with Top Gun. This, to me, I bought thinking that, you know, it's a little out of the ordinary for my taste, and the ceramic case is maybe not as versatile as a steel case, but I'm really bonding with it. And it's gone from excitement to, I've been tracking my watch wearing recently, and it's in the top 3, and I would not have expected that when I bought it. So it's interesting to see how these things can surprise you too.
Yeah, and you're right in saying that it is a relationship, not a sexy relationship. Okay, what all you lot are thinking of in here? No, it does change over time. I think for me, I don't know. I feel like I'm quite lucky in that everything I've picked, I've loved. Generally, there is one watch that I've bought that I haven't, and I've sold it on. But everything I've kind of stayed true to what I love, and it's the wearability sometimes that makes it the kind of relationship for it get better for me. Like the Speedy 57, because it's a smaller watch and the bracelet is amazing and it's so comfortable. I've actually found that I wear that probably more than most at the weekend. So I wear one watch for 5 days at work because I have work watches, and then for the weekend I would wear like the Speedy 57, the Navitimer, and I actually really look forward to the weekend because I know it's time for a change.
Right.
And I like that 5 days of wearing one watch because I feel like I can really, really enjoy it, and then move on for the weekend.
Yeah,
So that's how I do it.
It's interesting. For me, it's really rare to wear one watch 5 days in a row, other than during the honeymoon period. I would say I really enjoy that, like jumping back and forth for variety. But I will say, like a watch I truly loved over a long period of time, that's one where whenever you come back to it after wearing other watches, you like, it's almost like rediscovering it, which I think you said you have that experience too.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful feeling putting on a watch that you haven't worn in a while, where you get that feeling like, oh yeah, I do love this. I'm so glad I have this.
Yeah, and it's almost like, in a way, it's like you've bought it again. You have that kind of little feeling of, oh, this is so cool. I love this. And you kind of, you really realize that you've made the right choice.
Yeah. It feels fantastic when that happens. I agree.
So,
I agree.
Watch Medicine's just said he has a Rolex BLNR. That's the Batman, isn't it?
Yeah.
he doesn't think that will ever leave his collection as well. And I think he said he had the silver Snoopy Speedy that would never leave his collection. Which
those two are really special.
Yeah, that's
good
the white
choices.
dial. Yeah, also
Right.
probably won't leave his collection because it is literally insanely shot up in value.
Yeah, right. That's another reason, right?
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
see.
So, and Instablame has purchased. He sold his Hulk. When I've just noticed they're talking about it in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
He sold his Hulk and he's bought a Moser, the green dialed Moser. Is it Streamliner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The stream, that must be the Streamliner, the like 3-hander one, right? Because the first one was
Yeah.
the Chrono, I think. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that watch. Congratulations, that's really cool.
To be interesting to see.
Instablame's also posted in the Q&A feature. It's a bit long. I don't know if I can read it all. It says, I totally feel pressure to have money tied up in a watch I don't wear much. I think there's a difference between being a collector versus just enjoying the hobby. And I sort of cut it off there, actually, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not in a position where any of my watches have gone up in value significantly, so I've never felt that with a watch. But I felt that with a car, actually. The 993 911 that Stephanie and I inherited. But that's also so sentimental. There's no question of selling it. It's just a question of driving it. And we've tried to not let that hold us back from using it properly. But yeah, I can relate a little bit there. How about for you?
Yeah, that's a very good point. I suppose if a watch becomes so valuable that I mean, this is my point of view. For me, if one of my watches became so valuable, it was, 2, 3, 4 times what I earned in a year with my job, then I would be worried about it, and maybe it would make me enjoy it a lot less because I'm so worried.
Yeah.
So, and then, well, the other point as well, with it, if something is really valuable but also sentimental, I mean, sentimental is, to me, far outweighs any value, even if it's worth a little money or very, very expensive, because it's kind of irreplaceable, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And that's probably different for different people, right? At what point does the sentimentality outweigh that?
Yeah.
He's just followed up to explain the rest that was cut off. He said, I just said I have no problem selling a watch I don't wear to try a new watch. And I guess I'm trying to become a little bit more ruthless like that, I guess. Trying to make sure that I'm really wearing what I have. And so far, it feels good. I made the first step to make that change, I guess.
So that's quite interesting. So it seems to me like me and you are fairly similar in terms of where we buy something, we feel like if we've kept it for a while, then there is some sentiment already attached to a watch, whereas some people seem to be able to disconnect from that completely. Because at the end of the day, it is just a thing that you can sell for money in exchange for something else. But to me, I like to feel that there's more meaning behind it.
Yeah, I tend to attach meaning to my watches, and maybe that's a means of justifying the purchase, but sometimes it sticks and it actually does help that, it feels good.
So do you think now, with your Ultradromo, now that's gone, do you think that you could look at other watches in your collection slightly differently now and think, actually, I could sell that?
I do think so. Just knowing what it's like going through the experience of selling it, and that, at least fingers crossed in this circumstance, it wasn't painful, right? And I think the new owner will really enjoy it. It's in good shape. So I do think that might make me think a little bit differently about some of the watches. Yeah. I'll have to think hard about that.
And sorry, Arthur, just stop
go
for a second. If anyone's got any questions, can they just put it on the little question mark, asking a question, because sometimes it's quite hard to read what you're saying, because we want to respond to what you guys are saying. So if you could ask it as a question, and then we'll get to it at some point.
Yeah, and that puts all the work on me to find the questions, and Dan can just sit back and relax, right? But so the thing I was thinking is, I think with watches, there's the honeymoon period, and then there's like long-term love, like it's never leaving your collection. But it's almost like there's like some sort of like valley of death in between, right? Watches either make it across that period in the middle, or they don't. And that's where some people especially are much more willing to sell in that phase, right? they've gone through the honeymoon period, they've had their fun with it. It may not be sticking. Time to go. And others make it across, and then I think they make it into this category where it's just like, there's nothing that can make me sell this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I think this watch, the Top Gun, is in the process of crossing that, and it's going to make it, because I think, to me, it's just become one of the watches that I love the most. I don't know. I can't really explain it.
I think where you're different to me is it's weird. It's like, and I think it's the same with cars, with watches as well with me. When I see something, it's that instant. If it's not instant with me, like, that is beautiful. I mean, that is amazing. Obviously, cars, there's a lot more value well, not always, but generally there's a lot more value. Like, if I had the money, I'd go out and buy a Lamborghini Miura tomorrow. But, you know, you're talking 1, 2, 3 million for something like that. Whereas, like watches, for example, the Speedmaster and Navitimer, I remember when I could remember straight away when I saw an 806 for the first time. And I remember instantly thinking, how do I get that watch? I need that. That's what I want.
You're much more decisive than I am in that way, I think. Because I've never had that outright, like, I have to have it feeling, but I know if I like something, like, very quickly, and it's, for me, I have to come back to it a few times and have that same reaction again and again, and then I feel confident enough that this is the right choice for me.
Yeah. So Paulie's just come up with a good point, and I think this is true for you, Arthur, not for me, because I'm rubbish with this sort of thing. He said, adding a new different strap helps rejuvenate a watch back into the rotation for me. That's a good point. It does make it feel new.
Right.
However, once a strap's on there, I mean, I do change every now and again, but once I find that one strap that's comfortable and I like, it just tends to stay.
Yeah. So I agree with you there, Paulie, that it can really revitalize a watch to put a new strap on it. I guess in some cases, like the Speedmaster, it makes me fall in love all over again. I've also had watches where I try new straps on it in sort of like an effort to make it work and to make me connect with it more, and it falls flat. So I think it can work, and you can also spend a lot of money on nice straps, and a watch, you just can't change the watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So Watch Medicine's just said he's doing a watch fast, and he's locked up in his watch drawer to avoid temptation. That sounds a bit desperate.
That's too hard. I can't do it.
Yeah. I mean, when you went away and you only had 3 watches, when you came home, you were like amazed.
Yeah, the variety was insane. I loved it.
Yeah.
So I took 3 watches on vacation, right? We've actually got a good question here from Watch Medicine. House burning down, what 3 watches do you take with you after making sure everyone's alive?
I think I know 2. If I had to pick in order, the first one would be my grandfather's. It's got to be, because that's irreplaceable. There's literally nothing that's going to replace that. It would be the Speedy Professional. Christ, now you're getting down to it. This is hard. This is really hard. It'd probably be the Navitimer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in a house burning down situation, I think I would have to prioritize the sentimental stuff that cannot be replaced. Quite honestly, I mean, if you just, I'll do that. Yeah. So if the house is burning down, I would take the Frederique Constant Stephanie gave me for my wedding. Our wedding. Sorry, it's just not me. I didn't get married alone. Jeez.
She better not be watching this. She's going to give you a throttling afterwards.
My brother's Tag Heuer, irreplaceable. And then the third one would probably be based upon cost. I think I'd take the Top Gun because it's the hardest to replace money-wise. So, and then I'd go buy my Black Bay 58 and a new Speedmaster again.
So you've surprised me there. You've really surprised me, because I really thought you were going to click the Black Bay on one of yours there. Because I know how much you love that watch.
I do. See, I love that watch, but I don't think I have a sentimental connection to that particular one. Like, I wouldn't mind rebuying it if I had to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Do you feel like you would take the Top Gun over the Black Bay because the Top Gun for you is a little bit more of a heavy hitter?
yeah,
You think that
yeah,
as well?
right. Once I got beyond the sentimental stuff, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But if I was to pick three watches from my collection and that's it, and all I could wear forever, unsentimental, it would be Speedmaster, Black Bay 58, and Top Gun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my buddy
Yeah,
from Red Bar DC, he says, I love Arthur's Top Gun. He's got the Top Gun Miramar chronograph and the Doppel Chrono Ceratanium. Pretty badass stuff. Let's see.
So everyone here in the comments, your three watches, what would you keep out of all your three? Comments.
Yeah. Oh, Koos is posing hard questions for me here. Would you sell most of your watches to get the Pepsi? I don't believe in paying the secondary market premium, and I can afford it new at MSRP. So if in some like hypothetical scenario I had to sell some watches to get the Pepsi, I would, but I'm not going to sell them and pay double retail.
Yeah.
I don't want to support that, honestly.
So also, if my house was on fire, I think I would chuck Rick's Panerai into the house fire. Oh, hello, Rick. How are you? Just join.
We've got some good answers to the questions here too, by the way. Or the three that people would keep.
So we've got
let's see.
BT Watches Max, his Seiko SKX Explorer and Speedy. Koos, his Panerai, Speedmaster, and Pelagos. Pelagos he's just bought, the blue one, which is really cool.
I love that watch. So cool.
Yeah, that is a cool watch. Unfortunately for me, just a little bit too big for my chicken wrists.
Oh, I love Watch Medicine's choices. Silver Snoopy, BLNR, GMT, and Vacheron Overseas Blue Dial. Yeah, that's killer. I love it. Paulie says Speedy, OP39, Diver 65. Really good choices there. Yeah.
Cool. We were talking about the Diver 65, how much we liked it.
Yeah.
That is a cool watch.
That's another one that I really love, but to me it just would fill the same role as the Black Bay 58 does, and I know myself I wouldn't wear it as much. So very cool watch though.
Yeah, it is a cool watch.
Ooh.
Which one have you got? Have you got the one with the round pips, or have you got the one with the funky numbers on?
I would get the round marker one. I like that.
Yeah,
I know you like funky numbers.
I do, yeah.
Oh, let's see. I'm actually very interested to hear Karan's answer here. Hold on. Sorry, my computer's logged itself out. Patek 5070, Golden Ellipse Blue Dial, and Longa 31. That's some killer stuff. You never know what he's hiding away there. He's got a lot of cool stuff. Good choices, Karan.
Good choices, definitely. So also with your collection, do you think I completely forgot where I'm going with this. I've got Alzheimer's. I completely forgot where I'm going. I've lost it completely. I've completely lost it.
It's all good. It's all good. Yeah, so I guess where you and I haven't gone yet, and I'm thinking about going, is potential, and I think I heard some people comment on this theme down below, is potential consolidation a little bit. There've been a lot of tough questions about if you could go to only 3 and all this. Excuse me. I think one of the reasons...
We're not very professional today, are we?
No. As if we ever are. Anyway.
Exactly.
But yeah, over time I might think, as I'm reflecting on more on what I have and what I'm wearing and what I'm not, I've got more money in watches overall than I did when I started. And if you do make the decision to move on from something, it gives you sort of like a platform of, okay, you've sold this, there's that money, you've got some more money, you could jump to something that you may not have been able to afford before. So that I think is going to be, I haven't really gone through that yet, but I think that's going to be interesting over time. Yeah.
I mean, with mine, I don't think I'd ever I'd never consolidate because I love everything I've got. I really, even the one that I would consider to consolidate is still something I love. So it's a really hard. I do want one day. I think I want a Rolex 36 OP at some point. But I've made this pact with myself where I will sell something to get something else, because I see a certain amount of watches for me. It's just too many, because I think Terry mentioned it just a minute ago. If the more watches you have, the less you wear them all, and I just can't. For me, I can't get past that.
And maybe that's it's different degrees of what you call a collector, right? Like my box has 10 slots, and sure, I don't keep my G-Shock in there, right? But I just sold one so that I'd have room to get something I'd like better, sometime once I figure out what that is. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I want to go much over 10 because I don't think I can enjoy them all at once. And just owning them doesn't give me joy. That's different for different people, but just owning a watch and not wearing it actually gives me a feeling of guilt or slight stress, I guess. I don't know.
Actually, so my forgetful mind, that was where I was going.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So well done, Arthur.
Nice.
You are a mind reader. Yeah. So I do feel like when I wear something, I do feel really bad because I'm not wearing anything else. It's almost like, do you see that guy with the braces and all his speedies attached to his braces? You ever seen that?
No, I haven't seen that picture.
Yeah. I feel like I need to be that guy. Get all my watches on something.
You're gonna be like the sketchy guy with opens his trench coat and he's like, "Here's all my watches for sale."
Yeah, and just watches, nothing else.
Oh. Wait, hold on. I missed. I saw Scottish Watches Live join, and I think that's probably Rick. And I saw that, and it popped up, and I got distracted, and then I realized what you'd said. Oh, god damn.
I've just seen Mr. No Date's come on. Mr. No Date, if you are still here, has started a new page called the Grail Watch Club. What is it? Tell us what it is.
I'd be interested.
He's been very, very secretive.
Mm.
So we'll have to see what that is.
Yeah, let's see what he says.
Yeah.
Paul in the comments has said, if you can avoid ever buying a bigger watch box, that's a sign of real discipline. Bravo. Yeah, I mean, I was on the border, right? It was almost time to expand, and I managed to kick one out and save myself for at least a few months.
I like the way you described to me the other day that you had a free space in your watch box, and it's almost like the symmetry isn't there anymore. There is a space free. It's like you can't deal with it.
I've preserved the symmetry by making it a center space. So it's like 5, 2, and 2, but that makes it so much more prominent, right? It's just like, I look at my watch box and it's just like this gap. And it's like, calling out.
I just know that I knew that would be torture for you. I knew you'd find that difficult.
Let's see how long I can last.
Do you know what though? I think as well, for you, the fun in trying to decide what your next watch is actually the real fun part.
I do like that.
You know, the Pepsi, ceramic Pepsi, I don't know whether you're going to come on, Karan, for God's sake, get on with it.
Dan's tired of hearing me talk about it. That's why he's trying to make it hurry up, I'm sure.
Exactly. But I'm sure, even if you got one, regardless of getting another watch, you'd still get one. So I know you've been looking at other options as well. Yeah.
I mean, that El Primero's been on my radar for a while. I just sort of stuck on the sizes a little bit. 38 feels a little small. 42 for that watch feels a little big. Certainly the Breguet Type 20s and 21s have always caught my eye, like we were talking about at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
Still like the Zenith Defies a lot too. Totally different vein, right? But
the skeleton dial or the non-skeleton dial?
Probably the skeleton, just because I don't have one, and I like variety. So
Yeah. Yeah. So what? Oh, go on, carry on.
oh, I was just gonna say we've got a good question here
Yeah,
from
yeah,
Watch Medicine.
yeah. Well, I was
What's
going to say I was going to read something out from Watch Medicine, but I didn't realise that was a question from him. I was going to say, well, this question is far more important than him, but it's from him. So
hold on, Karan's just said Arthur was going to get one, but I took this video as an interview, and now he might not after I saw it.
Smooth, Karan, smooth.
Yeah, right. Okay, what's the
Well, I've got one.
Yeah. Oh God. See, he gives you a Pepsi, not me. That's not fair.
No, favoritism.
What's the longest duration you've worn one watch at a stretch? Watch Medicine is on day 16 of 28, and now I'm tired. I would be too. It's probably when I had my Planet Ocean was my first sort of like major purchase of my own. I wore that almost exclusively for like 2.5 years, almost daily, with very little rotation. I didn't count, but there's probably like a couple months stretch there. But now I'm too impatient and want variety. So I mean, recently it's been about maybe 2 days of my longest stretch.
So when you bought your Planet Ocean, were you still very, very careful and to not scratch it and damage it, or has that changed for you over time? Have you got more careful?
I think I might have gotten more careful, because there it was a daily wearer and my main and only daily wearer. So I think I probably had less choice of circumstances where I, wouldn't wear it now, maybe, or wear something nicer now. So maybe I have become a bit more careful, but certainly having a lot of watches in rotation, they all get less wear and tear as well in terms of, knocking them into things or whatever.
See, I'm opposite. So I bought the Speedmaster. I wore that for quite some time, quite a few years, just on its own. But I was very careful with it. It was like, expensive watch. Be careful. Keep it nice. And then it's gone completely opposite. So I'm like, now I don't care.
You're just like,
it's like when you get your new shiny car and you park it in the space away from anyone else, which I still do, by the way, and I know you do. And then you get your first couple of dents on it, and you're like, oh, sod it, I'll just park it in bushes and drive it into things, which I know you don't do.
No, I'm still pretty careful. Although, especially with my Cayman, I went from sort of like protecting it like it's a museum piece to now I'm more comfortable, using it harder, and I get more enjoyment out of it that way, actually. We've got a couple more questions here. Let's see.
Okay.
Watch Medicine's also asked us, why don't either of us own a JLC? That's a really good question.
It is a good question, because I would like a JLC, but I've got to sell something to get it. So, and
maybe you don't. Maybe you don't. Maybe that's a self-imposed restriction. I mean, why do you have to sell something?
It is a self-imposed restriction. Tribute to Memovox, the Polaris, which I think was like a 2007. That is an amazing watch.
So I love good. That one. Yeah.
I like the modern Polaris. They're cool as well, but I just like that one.
Yeah.
So what about yourself?
So I think the reason I don't own a JLC is they tend to make a lot of dressy watches, right? And I'm not as much a dress watch guy, but I do really like the Polaris collection, and I really liked the Deep Sea chronograph from a few years ago as well. That's probably one of my favorite JLCs out there. Do you know the one?
No, I don't.
Here, let me show the picture. Yeah.
While you're finding the picture, have you seen the crazy? I think it's a JLC. Tim Mosso was talking about it. To start the chronograph, you actually press the crystal.
Oh yeah, the Amvox.
That's it, the Amvox.
One of the guys in the DC Red Bar has one. It's really cool. Really cool. Here's the Deep Sea chrono. Let me flip this around. I have to exit the question. Yeah, here we go.
I think the Amvox, they did a pairing with. Oh no, I like that. Yes,
I knew you would.
I do like that.
I knew you would.
Yeah, I like that very much.
Yep.
Yeah.
I actually don't remember what the little red-white indicator is on the dial. I've forgotten.
Is it a power reserve? Is it power reserve?
I don't believe so. Someone's going to know the answer, and I'm going to look like an idiot. But anyway, that's probably my favorite JLC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Are you you're keep stuttering your end. Are you still there?
Oh,
yeah,
sorry. Yeah, I'm here. Instablane's raised an interesting point here. Working at home has definitely affected him. He sold 2 nice dress watches because he couldn't imagine getting much use. That's an interesting question. I mean, with especially not knowing how long sort of lockdown could go on, or whether it would change people's work from home situations permanently. That's an interesting question.
Just quickly, sorry, before we move on to that question, Karan said the Amvox transponder was better for Aston Martin. Yeah, I thought they did a pairing with Aston Martin with those.
Yeah, I believe so.
So yeah, sorry, back to explain to questions with dress watches.
Yeah, I mean, you're back at work, right? I mean, you never, well, you stopped for a couple of weeks, but yeah, so that probably hasn't changed your situation much. But I don't, even though I do dress up for work in like a dress shirt and slacks, sometimes a tie, I tend to still go mostly with sporty watches, so it hasn't changed things a lot for me. But I could understand if someone was really into dress watches and now they're working from home. I could see how that could change their perspective quite a bit, really.
Yeah, as well. Is everyone here finding, because they're working from home, their perspective has changed on their collection, and they're really enjoying it for themselves? Rather, I mean, I know. It is cool when you get a comment from a watch you're wearing. It's cool to strike a conversation with someone. But is it changed for you because it's only you looking at that watch now?
I've always tried to just buy for myself anyway, so I don't think it's changed anything for me. But I think it could for some other people, right? I don't know.
But what I meant by, like I said, what I meant by that is people not going into the office, so they don't need a dress watch, or they're just at home. So
right.
Maybe a bad example. Not wearing a watch just to get a comment. I mean, I'm sure I'd get comments on that.
There's some people giving some feedback along these lines. Let's see. Instablaine says, I miss having that watch that I wore with certain outfits. Yeah, I've in some ways, a good comment here from one of these gents. Yes, I enjoy it more in some ways and change every day. I actually have been sometimes changing morning and afternoon just because it gives me something fun to do. Trying to find fun things amidst the boredom of staying home more. We started doing this because of lockdown, right? Yeah. So
I must say though, actually, that's a good point. I found that I paid more attention to my watches while at home because it was something to do and something to enjoy. So
yeah, right. Exactly.
Having that interaction with it, it was I found more fun because I paid more attention to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and A-Rod Baltimore said he agrees. Working from home is amazing from a watch perspective. I circle through almost all of them during the day. That's the most I've heard of swapping through, but hey, that's fun. Cool.
So how long have we got, Arthur?
4 minutes.
Okay, so Steve Daniels says, working from home makes me not wear watches anymore. When I started going back, I avoided dressy ones on leather, chose ones on bracelets so it's easier to clean. Yeah, I can understand that, definitely.
Yeah, right. I mean, from a practical perspective, I hadn't really thought about that.
Mr. No-Day, he's wearing a Lange 1815 chrono because I'm what's that? WFA? I'm not down with the kids, mate.
Working from home.
There we go.
Yeah. Can you tell the Dan doesn't WFH?
Because I thought it was something rude. An acronym for something rude. because I work from home every day, it's a totally different experience to wearing it in London. Yeah, so because if you were going into London with that, would you be worried about that a little bit because it's worth so much money?
That's an interesting point. I thankfully the area where I live and wear watches, I've never really had a security concern. Maybe it should enter my mind more, but it doesn't, to be honest.
It does mine. Like going into London, you do hear certain things, so I am conscious of it.
Yeah.
But all my watches are insured, so if something did happen,
Hodinkee insurance, right? It must be.
No.
Well, before we get cut off, we've got a couple good questions in the Q&A. Before we get cut off, we just wanted to wrap things up on here, and this will go up on YouTube shortly on the Scottish Watches channel, or Scottish Watches Live channel. As always, thanks for tuning in. If you're watching this live on YouTube, check us out next week, and check out Scottish Watches podcast and everything else that we're doing over there. So
Cool. Thank you
you
for joining, everyone.